joined now by Audacy NFL insider Mark Schlereth, host of the Stinkin' Truth podcast. Insider Calls are brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. May your game day be delicious. And a good afternoon to you, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
How are you guys?
Well, we're doing all right as well. I mean, I think better than some of the Cowboys players. Third week in a row, they're getting frustrated. I mean, I guess one was the owner, one was the coach, and then Trayvon Diggs Sunday night. What do you think about a team lashing out at reporters here after losses?
Well, it goes to show you, one, it goes to show you the frustration within the complex, within the team, and two, the lack of maturity. I mean, it's one of those things where I understand frustration, I get frustration, but the point is that ultimately you got to go out and perform, you got to go out and work, and if you're not performing and you're not winning, you're open to criticism. So, I mean, here's my theory was always this as a player. There is nothing you can say about me. There is nothing you can talk about in regards to my game that I'm not going to be 10 times harder. I'm not going to be a way bigger critic of myself than you could ever be. And the only time that you get, your panties in a wad is when people say things about you and it's true and you don't like it. So that's been my experience playing, 12 years in the league. That was just kind of how I felt about it. By the way, I've got Tennessee this weekend, and I don't know if you guys know this, but they've got a good little back named Pollard. You probably never heard of him.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He's actually playing, on a bad team, but he's playing pretty well. He's a good little run blocker, good little running back, really explosive. You guys, obviously you guys couldn't afford getting backs this year because, Jerry Jones has said so, but I just keep looking at going, boy, he'd look good in a Dallas Cowboy uniform, but,
Well, yeah, and then when he was here 4 out of the 5 years, couldn't get him on the field because, you had the great Ezekiel Elliott who needed the majority of the carries, and I guess we're still dealing with that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Anyhow, I don't mean to poke fun, but I was like, damn, how'd this guy end up not being part of that team? So anyhow, whatever. I digress.
It is frustrating, and, I thought there for a minute, Mark, when the Cowboys came out with just over 3 minutes to go, they'd figured something out, and we were about to see the game-winning drive. What were you thinking right before those 4 straight incompletions that tragically ended the game?
Yeah, same thing. And the other thing I always look at is what are you doing? Obviously, what's working and stuff, but I get so many teams to just get into this panic. We got to throw it every down. And a lot of the times when you're in those situations, I know they don't run it well, but when you're in those situations, the best fronts, the lightest boxes, and the best matchup you're going to get to pop a run is in those situations where everybody and their brother's uncle knows you're going to throw it. And again, that comes down to coaching. And, it's funny because I've got Tennessee, as I mentioned, so I'm watching the Detroit film. And the amount of times they get teams in second and long and third and long, and they'll run a trap. They'll just run a standard zone, just a standard tight zone or whatever. Or they'll run a inside trap or a wham, and they'll split that crease, that defense, and it's amazing how many times they'll get 15 yards on a 2nd down and 7 when everybody's opening their hips to bail to get to their drop spots. And, it's just one of those things where, we get so we've normalized, we've got to do this on this down, we've got to do this on this down. And sometimes, from a play calling standpoint, a little change up in the way you do things, where you're going to get the most favorable look as an offense. And, I was also thinking about that. Do you have anything, that you go to that would get people off of what you're doing?
Stink, you had it was Cardinals and Dolphins this past weekend, I believe, and you talk about the rushing attack, like Mike McDaniel and what he does. He's one of our favorite coaches when it comes to just the interview aspect of it. How is it getting to pick his brain during the week, and what did you think of that game?
Well, it was great to pick his brain, and he was my ball boy when I played in Denver.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, so I've known that guy since he was 14 or whatever. But it's fun to have a conversation with him because of the way was brought up in this league, and the way he learned in this league, through Mike Shanahan and that system, and and some of the things that they do to attack the edge and use their speed to their advantage. But it was a really, really cool experience, to sit down with Tua and see Tua in his first game back, and to see kind of just the way he processed coming back, and then how well he played, and he played exceptionally well. And I thought there may be rust, and there was no rust in his passing game. The only place that there was a little bit of rust is taking the snap, both in shotgun and under center. He had a fumble. He had one fumble that led to a safety, which ended up costing him the game. So it was really interesting. Ball security, because you haven't been in the pocket, because you haven't been operating that way. The throws and the operation from the throwing standpoint and getting the ball on receivers with an opportunity to run, none of that suffered at all. He looked like a well-oiled machine. It was just, some of the other things that ended up costing Miami that game. But a great comeback and a great play, just a really good game, really fun game to call.
Insider Calls here with Mark Schlereth, brought to you by Hellman's Real Mayonnaise. You can purchase Hellman's at your local Walmart, Kroger, or grocery store to add extra deliciousness and creamy flavor to your game day dishes this football season. Mark, what's the most tired you ever were in a game? And did you ever get close to asking out?
Yeah, no. I never got close to asking out. We had a couple of 18, 19-play drives over the course of my career where it's exhausting. As a matter of fact, I had an 18-play drive. I think it was an 18. Might have been a 19-play game or drive against the Giants in 1991. And in the midst of that drive, somewhere in the middle of that drive, I broke the end of my thumb. So not only did I have to go 18 plays, but I had to do it with a broken thumb, and did not ask out of that drive or any play of that game. So that is the craziest thing I have ever heard. Like, you're a quarterback, dude. I don't care how tired you are. You don't opt out of a game. You can't. Unless you're hurt, you don't get to come out. Now, I understand receivers rotate. They run 160 yards or whatever, and they come off the sideline and somebody else rotates in for them, and I get that. But you don't opt out as a quarterback. It's the lie. That dude needs it. Like, we all want our athletes to tell us the truth until they actually tell us the truth. Then we'd like them to lie. That's one where I'd like to get a lie, because that was the most ridiculous thing. I would just off that answer alone, I'd had to bench him. Just like, yeah, you're not bright enough to play the quarterback right at this particular juncture of your career. You right now, we're gonna have to sit you down. You're gonna have to learn how to speak the language before we actually let you go back out and play.
Was that more offensive than the Tyreek Stevenson Bears defender there on the Hail Mary, taunting the crowd mid-play and then being the one that causes the ball to deflect into the arms of the receiver?
Right, when you're supposed to be playing backstop there, and you're supposed to body up that guy like a rebounder. Yeah, that was egregious. And as egregious as that was, it was not nearly as egregious as giving the ball to a guard on the goal line. Like, seriously. So I sit there and think, one, his hands are all taped up. He's got gloves. Like, I had the number of rolls of tape I had on my hands and my fingers while I was a player, and then the wrist guards, my hands were like in casts. They were freaking weapons. They shouldn't have been illegal. Like, they should have been illegal. They shouldn't have been legal to play with my hands that taped up. And I'm like, you can't be serious. You cannot give – like, at some point you practiced that and said, yeah, that's a good idea. Like, it's like, how can you be that dumb? Like, even Anthony Richardson looked at that and go, wow, those guys are really stupid. So, like, that was mind-boggling. That's a fireable offense, too, as far as I'm concerned. You can't be that stupid.
Mark, thank you so much for your time and your insights, buddy. Enjoy Week 9. We'll catch up with you next Tuesday.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.